Hey everybody, and welcome back to TheoryWhiz. I have to be quiet because my toddler is sleeping right now, but I wanted to take this opportunity to film a quick video outlining the 6 main steps it takes in order for you to get your Swedish driving license. So, the first step to getting your Swedish driving license is to get a permit. Now, even if you are currently driving within your 1-year legal exemption of being able to drive on your foreign driving license, you're still going to need a Swedish driving permit in order to take driving lessons and book your tests and your risk classes and everything. So the first step is always a good idea to just get your permit. And you're going to do that following 2 steps. The first is you're going to go to your local optometrist and get just a basic eye test done. It costs about 100 crowns. And then after that, you're going to go onto Transportstyrelsen's website and you're going to apply for your Korkortsbocker.se, which is your driving permit. And you're going to want a B Körkort application because the B driving license is for, like private cars. And that costs, I think, 150 crowns. Now, the website says it could take up to 2 months for them to process your request. They mailed me my permit within like 3 to 4 weeks of when I applied. So just know that there will be a little bit of a waiting time before you actually get your permit paperwork. In that waiting time, you can go around where you live and select the city you prefer to do your driving lessons and your test in. Some cities obviously are going to be more complex than others. There may be like wacky street configurations or a lot of traffic, things like that. So maybe you might want to choose a suburb type city that isn't super high pressure and high stress. Also bear in mind that the bigger cities have longer queues in order to book a driving test in. I mean, we're talking about like 3 to 6 months, especially if you book in the summertime, that you're going to need to book those tests in advance in order to get a seat. So if you want to choose a city that might have a shorter queue, suppose maybe you're in a rush to get your driving license, then you can go onto Trafikverket's website, and on their homepage there is a button that says Boka Prov, which is to, book your test. Just follow the prompts, pick the city that you've selected, and see when the dates are, like the most recent dates are, that are available to book a test. And that will give you an idea right now of how long the wait lines are in order to book tests. And for that matter, you might actually want to just book your tests now instead of waiting until later, especially if there are long queue lines. Your next step then is to select a driving school. Even if you don't plan on hiring a driving instructor, you can still use traffic schools to your benefit. First of all, let's go here. You can kind of treat them like a travel agency, and this is particularly if you purchase a tuition package from them. They can book all of your risk classes for you, they can book your driving tests for you, they can arrange all kinds of things so that you don't have to worry about doing that on your own. But one particular benefit to engaging with a driving school is that you can generally book your handledare kurs through them. And what this is you can designate either your spouse or your sambo or a family member or whoever, someone that has a Swedish driving license. You can designate them as sort of your at-home certified driving instructor. And if you are driving on a permit and you're outside of your 1-year driving exemption, you have to have a handledare in the car with you if you want to practice driving at home on your own. So what you do is you bring that person with you to the handledare kurs, and it's like a 3-hour classroom lecture. There's no test at the end of it. It's just, it's just a classroom lecture that you both have to sit through. You pay a small fee, and then the person you've designated becomes your handledare. And then you can drive around on your own with your permit, whether or not you decide to go through a traffic school to do driving lessons. But I highly recommend
highly recommend you hire a driving instructor for at least 1 to 2 lessons. I came from Los Angeles with somewhere between like 15 and 18 years of driving experience, and even I plan on using all 10 of the lessons I purchased. The driving situation here in Sweden is a lot different than I'm used to back in California, but I don't really know how many countries do eco driving. Sweden is really big on eco driving. You need to prove that you can drive in an environmentally friendly and economically friendly way. It's actually one of the 5 main categories, I think, that you're tested on your driving test. So definitely valuable to just do 1 or 2 lessons to get the main pointers from them as to what they think you should focus on. So after you've selected your school and engaged with them and hopefully taken the handledare kurs, you need to acquire your books. Now you can get these through the driving school. Just purchase the whole package through them. You can also go through third-party retailers like Korkortsbocker.se and also Bokus. You can get them from Bokus. You can also borrow them from a friend or the library or buy them used off of Blocket. The only thing you want to be mindful of is that it seems like STR publishes a new edition of the driving books every year. So just for reference, I bought my package of books at the end of 2017 and they were on the 29th edition. So if you're going off of an older edition, you might want to just upgrade. Then, after all of that, you're going to, of course, just study like crazy. Study. And I didn't actually write this down, but in terms of studying, you're definitely going to want to get some online practice tests. You can purchase a subscription to something like Elevcentralen through a driving school, but you can also use third-party websites like Transportstyrelsen.se, where you can purchase memberships and like time-restricted subscriptions to their database of practice questions. And then there's also apps that you can download or purchase that have practice tests also. So you're going to want to do that as part of your study package. But while you're studying, you're going to want to book your Risk 1 and Risk 2 classes. The Risk 1 is just a 3-hour classroom lecture. There's no test at the end of it, and all it does is teach you the risks of alcohol and fatigue. The Risk 2 is a driving class. There again is no test at the end of it. It's just sort of a informational half-day course where you are put into a car and you are taught how to drive and lose control and regain control driving on ice and slush and snow. You do it on a controlled course at a specific facility that is iced out any time of the year. Very, very informative and a lot of fun. So there's no reason to be worried about this class. It's actually a lot of fun. And then lastly, you book your theory and driving tests. Now, with these 2 tests, you can pass one and fail the other. You can pass this one and fail that one, whatever, or you can pass both of them, or you can fail both of them. But if you pass one but not the other, you have 2 months in order to pass the test you failed from the day that you passed the first test. You can take your test as many times as you need to in that time period, but you have to pass both within a 2-month period. Otherwise, you need to restart and take both tests all over again. Okay, so I thought I'd take a quick minute to just show you the driving books that you can acquire for your studies. These are at least just the books that my traffic school gave me, and they gave me a pretty comprehensive package. So I'll go through the ones that are most important and then onwards to the ones that are probably not so necessary. But the main book you're going to want to get is this driving license book. It's your general manual. You're going to want to get cozy with it because you'll be reading it multiple times, okay? And again, like I said, the 29th edition was the most recent book that was given to me by my traffic school. So make sure you pick a book that is at least, close to this edition if you're going to borrow it from a friend or buy it used or whatnot. The second necessary book is this little booklet called Swedish road signs, and it is going to show you every single road sign you could encounter in Sweden. You're going to want to not only know the road signs, but also their explanation and this type of information too. I've actually failed multiple practice test questions because I didn't read like these little blurbs at the beginning. So treat this like a book. Read it from top to bottom. It's very important. Okay. Then you can purchase these handbooks. I don't think the driving handbook is very important unless you're hiring a driving instructor, because it basically just goes through driving scenarios that your lessons will probably be based off of. So if you're doing this particularly on your own and not hiring a driving school, I wouldn't necessarily say you need this book. But this book I think is very interesting, especially if you're doing it on your own, and especially if you don't have the time or ambition to read the larger manual multiple times. It's just a book of questions, and each question is divided off of the chapters in the driving manual, and you basically just fish out the answers and write them in. I think it's a really good way of reinforcing the broader concepts that are taught in the driving manual. Now these two booklets, are based off of the road signs. So you have this, which is the Förteckningar, which is just a fold out, pamphlet, I guess, of all the Swedish road signs, but there's no description of any. You just have the road signs and you have their corresponding code. And then in this booklet, it tests your knowledge of road signs, and all it is they describe, and now it's only in Swedish, so hopefully you guys can Swedish, but it describes each of the signs, and then it asks you to write down your answer here, what sign that you think it's being described, and then the answers are always on the reverse page, and these are those codes. So A34 here, you'd find the corresponding sign, whatever, A34, wherever it is. And then if you do the handledare kurs, you're going to get the handledare book as part of the curriculum, and this is also only in Swedish, but it's good for you and your partner both to read this, because essentially this is what teaches you and your handledare all the things you need to learn and master in order to pass your driving test, especially if you plan to only do the driving on your own and not hire a driving instructor. So if you do the handledare kurs, this book is very, very valuable because it will teach you everything you need to know in order to pass the test, at least the driving test. And then lastly, my traffic school also gave me this. It's a deck book. It's all about tires. I have not read it at all, and it's only in Swedish, but I don't know, maybe it's useful. I've taken a bunch of theory tests though, and I've never needed to reference this for answers. So definitely not necessary, but it might come in your package. Okay, before I wrap up this video, I just wanted to share a couple useful online resources that I have taken advantage of. The first here is Korkort Online, and remember you can't use Swedish letters in web addresses, so it looks like Korkort. But this website is awesome for two reasons. First of which is they have a whole free, I guess like Cliff Notes version of the driving manual on their website, and they break it down by the same chapters that are shown in the book. But the best part is that they also they paraphrase, but they also put in some extremely useful information that you can't really get from the driving manual. So I suggest that even if you do read through the manual a couple times, also just briefly read through the web pages on their theory, and I think it's called like Theory and Driving Regulations or whatever. You'll see it on their homepage. Read through it because it's very, very helpful. Secondly is Elevcentralen, and I got a subscription to this through my driving school. So I don't know if you can purchase a subscription just as a private party, but they have like thousands of previously used theory test questions on there, and they have them organized in like different types of practice tests. So I highly recommend that if you can get access to it, taking those practice tests. And also, I didn't mention the second reason this is good. You can buy a time-restricted subscription to their online database of practice tests. Now, I haven't done that, so I don't know if they're the same test questions between Körkort Online and Elevcentralen. But if you want to go like a cheap route, you can try buying a 1-month subscription to Körkort Online's database and see if you like it. Third of all, YouTube is extremely useful. There are a bunch of channels on there that are like dash cams in Sweden. If you want to get an idea of what different driving situations look like, there are some really good channels on there for trafikskolor. So like this one, Karoli Trafikskola, they have a lot of really good videos. So you can go online and use certain keywords like uppkörning, mitt väg till körkort, or Swedish traffic school, Swedish driving lessons. Just Google around in YouTube for different keywords. Now, most of the content is in Swedish, and that's one of the reasons why I'm creating my channel in English, because I don't feel like there's that much content on there. But if you are struggling with certain concepts like högregeln or like roundabouts or things like that, you can just Google those things in YouTube or search in YouTube, and there are a bunch of videos produced by traffic schools where they show you how to do those kinds of things. Fourth of all are apps. I have not downloaded any, so I can't offer any suggestions yet, but I have a lot of friends who said that they downloaded apps, and some of them were free and some of them were paid, and they found them to be very useful, so you can look into that. And then lastly, shameless plug, once I pass my own test, hopefully soon, I plan to produce TheoryWhiz flashcards, because I study best with tangible flashcards. I like being able to sift back and forth between them and just have them in my purse and whatever. So I have created like sets of the Swedish road signs, and I have like sets of cards on the information that I feel is important from the driving book manual. I also have flashcards on supplemental information, which you can't see here, but it's like the speed table and stuff like that. And I'm sure I'll make more. But if you are the type of person who does well with flashcards, just keep an eye on my page, because I'm hoping to have those available sometime in February for anyone who is interested. So as you can see by the lighting, it has taken me all day to film this silly video, but it's finally done, and I just wanted to come on and say thanks for watching. I hope this information was useful and informative, and if I have gotten anything wrong or if there's something I should have added or mentioned, leave a comment below, because like I said, I am not an expert on this. I'm still in the process myself, but these steps were the ones I've followed, and they seem to have worked well for me as of now. So now this video is done, and I can finally start putting up some more creative and fun videos about theory issues that I have found to be tricky and challenging, so I thought I would share the information for those of you who are currently studying. Maybe it might be helpful to you all as well. So like and subscribe if you want to join me on this ridiculous journey. And by the way, my cat is making a cameo. And otherwise, I'll just see you guys around next time. Okay, bye!